Well, hello. It is a True Crime Sunday. We don't do true crime here. I'm usually into music reactions. I'm usually into more political stuff, but March 16th is quickly approaching. And 41 years ago, March 16th, 1984, something at Le Baton Rouge airport had transpired. And we'll be getting into that video later on. Gary Plauché, the father of the year for all of eternity, basically. Incident happened there, and we will play a video of him taking justice into his own hands. I call it good old fashioned street justice. The cure for, predators is the only cure for predators, of the lead variety. And so we can't play that video here on YouTube. So we will be switching over exclusively to Rumble and to X. So I am simultaneously streaming on all three platforms right now. So if you're here from X, say hello. If you're here from Rumble, say hi. If you're here from ScrewTube, say hello. But with the censorship and all of that, we're going to have to move it over eventually to X and to Rumble. So if you want to continue watching, I might grab up the links or something and put them in the chat for you guys. I didn't even think to do that and put them across my ticker, but and you're wondering, this ain't no they them situation. No, no, no. I have a guest with me today, and this guest is a survivor, a warrior, and he worked for a long time after he went to college and whatnot. And he will always be a victim's advocate. Those are his words, not mine. But he worked in the victims advocacy for many years after the fact, after he got out of college. And his name is Jody Plauche, and he's joining us from Louisiana. And I'm going to bring him in right now. And there he is. Hey, Jody.
I'm trying to get my phone set up right to where I can have it.
I was setting up.
Hold on.
There we are.
All right.
Yes, I
That
can
way,
see clearly
that way,
now.
yes. My
So,
kitty's sitting right here. All right. You can
where's the
see me
cat?
good?
Oh, yeah, I can see you really good. There's a cat. The cat actually, I was trying to see, Jody's cat, and he kept showing us his derriere. Like, look at it. Just look at it. It's like, my God. Hi, everybody. I see a lot of you here from Rumble. I see a lot of you guys from YouTube. I miss you guys. I know it's been a long time. Guys, I'm sorry. This knee is just bummed. I'm bummed out about this knee. Hey, look, guys, again, my guest here, this is Jody. And I got to speak with Jody for what do we talk? Probably a good hour and a half. This guy, you could just talk to him and it's an hour and a half goes by and you're like, holy shit, we've been on the phone for an hour and a half. So I decided, since I didn't go through exactly what Jody went through because my story was nowhere near as cool. Like it really wasn't. I'm like, every child who went through this, this type of abuse wishes that they had a dad like Jody. And I don't know how many people have probably came up and said that to you, like, I wish I had a dad like you. I know that's one of the first things I said to you when we connected on the phone. And I have to give my friend Tim a big shout out because he's the one that made this happen. But how many people do you estimate have come up to you in your adult life and have said the same thing? Or what is the most common thing besides your dad is one hell of a shot has people said to you throughout your life?
Mostly they've said, I understand why your dad did what he did. So basically, it's their way of disclosing that they were abused without saying, I was abused.
Yeah. 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 Especially now that I'm a mother, I have been such one of those parents that is a helicopter parent. Don't trust anybody watching my kid unless you're like mom or my ex's mom, right? Like I am so it took me 3 years to get a babysitter for my youngest, and I put her through all sorts of, background checks, and, I knew she had home security system that I had access to, so I could check on him at any time I wanted to. Um, so I know that that basically made me become the mother that I am today, and, yeah, it really does screw with your mind, and it never goes away, and, it's a lifelong thing that people I don't think a lot of people today understand when you expose a child to pornography, it takes like 3/10 of a second for these kids' brain to be affected. And it's known as grooming, and a lot of predators use that method by showing children pornography because they're trying to normalize it. And I see that happening a lot now in the schools and stuff, and it's like it creeps me out because I know what's going on, and I know what happens to a child when they're exposed to that type of thing. And I know what the predators use it for, so it makes it even like grosser to me, you know?
Yeah, the one thing, Jeff did not use pornography per se, but there was a running joke. We would go to the mall, we'd go to the bookstore, and there was a gay magazine called The Advocate. And whoever the new person was, we would show them The Advocate, and they're flipping through it, and all of a sudden there's, cock and balls. And so that was the only thing that he ever did that had anything to do with pornography. But yeah, he didn't really show it to me.
So if some of you guys are joining in and you've never heard the Jody Plauché story with Gary, the why Gary why is a famous saying. Jody, as a boy, had a karate instructor. You know what? Jody, I want you to tell it in like a real brief, like 1 to 2 minute, synopsis of what had happened. And then me and you are gonna watch a video from it came out, it was your dad's last time on camera. And I want you to tell everybody your story, real like 2 minutes and fill people in before we watch your dad's last appearance. And yeah, I think
Okay.
it would sound better coming from you.
I can do it. I can do it pretty quickly. Um, when I was 10 years old, we started taking karate from a man named Jeff Doucet. Um, and uh, unbeknownst to my parents, he liked children, and he started abusing me for a year before he ran into some financial problems. And he decided to leave town. And when he decided to leave town, he took me with him, which was kidnapping. He actually told my mother, if you ever want to see Jody alive again, you'll meet me in New York. We were in California, and that made it aggravated kidnapping. So he was going to go to jail for the rest of his life. Um, when they brought him back from California to Baton Rouge, my dad had the knowledge of his return and went to the airport with a gun in his boot. He was talking to his best friend on a payphone, and when Jeff walked by, that he shot, killed him. Um, he shot him on a Friday night. He couldn't post bail till Monday morning, so he did a few nights in Paris prison. But that's the only jail time he ever served. He got probation and community service.
And you guys, if the audio is messy, Jody's in the bayou. He's in Louisiana. He's like he's it's probably that's probably why the audio's spotty. But brief, what he just basically he spilled out a story of what dad got for taking justice into his own hands. You're a father. Just put yourself in Gary Plauché's shoes. You're a father. You trust somebody. You give somebody room and board. I mean, this your parents and grandparents were so kind to him and took him in and gave him because he was living in the dojo, right?
Right.
So, they said we're going to get our kids into karate, and they noticed this young 24-year-old guy, no home, no nothing, and complaining that he didn't eat or anything, and they give him food, shelter, shower, and it's nice that he's hanging around Jody a lot, but it's like I know your grandfather. I seen, you know, some interviews with your granddad, and he was like, something ain't right with this guy. And
That was my uncle.
oh, your uncle. So he saw Jeff kiss you
Yep.
on the mouth, and he saw was like, what the hell is this? Because I don't kiss my kids on their mouth. You know what I mean? It's just it raised some really sneaking suspicions, and I don't think your dad, you know, I can't honestly say that I wouldn't do the same. Unfortunately, these days, I think that if your dad had done this today, I don't think that we would have the same outcome. I don't.
In Louisiana, I think we would.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking I'm Northeast Ohio, right? And although we have castle doctrine and we have stand your ground here, we're very heavily Second Amendment state. Um, I know that if you if you were to do something like that here, there's no way possible that you wouldn't be sitting in jail. Even like I'm a member of USCCA, and it's the Concealed Carry Association, blah blah blah. And even if somebody comes into my home, they tell you straight up when you're getting your CCW and all this, that, and the other. If you shoot somebody in your home, you're going to jail. And then the courts will settle it later, right? The courts will. So, it's so important that I went through all of the training and knew all of the laws so that if case may be, somebody is, I have to make sure that I am not at fault. I have to make sure that no matter what the circumstance is that I am not looked at as at fault, or else my kids will be without a mom, and you know, I just don't understand how so many people today are against the death penalty for people like this, because honest to God, what your dad did was save future kids from going through. He wasn't able to save you from what you had gone through for that whole year, but he was able to stop because these people, once they get that salacious appetite, they can't get over that.
Jeff never molested again.
Jeff never molested again, and that's a fact. That's a fact. And with Trump, I think when he was campaigning and he said, I'm going to make touching a child like that a capital offense, a federal capital offense, my heart dropped. I said, I could just imagine how many people, no matter if they're Democrat or Republican, they're going to try to stop that. They're going to say the Supreme Court, you know how much money your dad not only saved the taxpayers, but he also saved, he made sure that Jeff was never able to do that, what he did to you, to anybody else ever again. It was a cure.
Yeah, I think in 20, 2007, 2006, that went in front of the Supreme Court. It was a case in Louisiana. It was a Kennedy case, and they actually used my dad in their argument about putting to death someone who rapes a child, and they eventually ruled against that, saying that it wasn't cruel and unusual punishment. But now that Trump's back and the Supreme Court's a lot different than it was back in 2006, so maybe he'll get that passed.
I hope so, because with every executive order, it's like a new activist in a robe is popping up. Like, I just want to say how gutless and spineless the GOP today is, because when Biden was putting through these executive orders, like getting rid of Remain in Mexico, getting rid of Title 42, putting men in women's bathrooms, locker rooms, and sports, and wouldn't you know, a bunch of the predators like Jeff Doucet literally gamed the system and got into our women's bathrooms. Hannah Tubbs, have you ever seen that case of Hannah Tubbs? It was a guy and looked like a guy, didn't transition at all, didn't even put makeup on or nothing. Had like a goatee and all kinds of shit. Took a little kid into the Denny's bathroom and sexually assaulted this little kid. Like, I mean, I'm talking like 3-year-old kid or something. And says, I'm Hannah Tubbs. I identify as a woman. And that person was put in a women's prison. Like, wait a second. So no Republican, no Democrat, like the Democrats were all for that because, they're creeps. And the Republicans, I think they're secretly creeps, because if not, then why wouldn't you fight against that? We got the creeps out in the open now, and we got the creeps that are in the closet. I'd only trust a handful of Republicans anymore. It's terrible. It's terrible, but I'm hoping you're right. I'm hoping that you're correct. I hope that we can see it happen soon and without objection. And it's just such a, we save the taxpayers money, because in Akron, Ohio, there was a guy who he assaulted and he murdered a 3-year-old little girl. He admitted to it. He came out and said, I'm guilty. I did this. And he sat on death row for nearly 30 years. 30 freaking years. We're giving him, on the taxpayer dime, 3 hots and a cot, and all of his medical care is paid for by taxpayers. Anything were to happen to him, surgery wise and whatnot, we're paying for it. It's like, I don't think that I just don't think, I think they're a waste of oxygen, because again, these types of people cannot be rehabilitated. A thief, a thief, you can send to prison, and you know what? They can have an awakening moment like, shit, if I steal again, I'm coming back to prison, right? I better not do that again. Drug addict. You know what? I'm in prison. Yeah, this ain't fun. I'm going to clean up my act. I'm going to learn my lesson. Not going to do that again. I now realize that drugs had landed me in prison, like myself, right? One and done.
Mhm.
Those type of people cannot be rehabilitated in the slightest. So, your dad was on the last video, which I had problem finding, and thanks to Jody here, I got access to the video finally. It's about 15-minute video. And then after this, we're going to transition to X and to Rumble exclusively. So you guys, look, let me give you my X account, right? I'm going to give you, how the hell do I look at my profile here? I'm going to give you the link. Okay, it's super easy. x.com/JustGenRX, right? Super simple. Or you can join on Rumble like everybody else, right? Because unfortunately here, you guys, YouTube, and I hate saying it like this, but I have to, is going to censor and continue to censor and continue to censor and continue to censor and continue to censor until everybody stops and says, you know what, we're leaving and we're going to go to Rumble and X where censorship doesn't happen. So I'm going to scroll this up out, and then me, Gary, and all of you, we have 944 viewers here on YouTube now. I would like to see everybody move over to X so that we can watch the video and talk with Jody in a more uncensored version. Right, Jody? How do you feel about that?
Exactly.
Right. Let me see if I can pull up my Rumble here, because I'm a terrible YouTuber, and I do have people that actually they do good job moderating for me, and I never tell them when I'm going live. So here's the X. We're simultaneously streaming on all of these platforms right now. If you want to see the uncensored version, you're going to have to move either over to Rumble or X. Now, E60, this one's called what, Jody? What is this one called?
A Time to Kill.
A Time to Kill. Now, again, this was your dad's. You call him daddy because you're Louisianan like a motherfucker. You you call him daddy. This was his last, right?
Daddy's last interview.
Daddy's last interview.
He looks like E.T.
Does he?
Yeah. You'll see.
Well, rest in peace, Gary Plauché. You are a hero still. And I hope that one day when I die, I get to meet your dad, because I'll shake his hand, give him a hug. All right, you guys, here we go. Here's this video. I hope I don't have commercials.
Karate. It's the art of self-defense. The master-pupil relationship is built on respect and trust. But what happens when that trust is broken? And how can life ever be repaired? Growing up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Jody Plauche was happiest when he was playing sports.
A cute kid, man.
Jody was 5 years old, and he was out on the football field with double zeros on his chest and missing teeth in the front.
Jody's father, Gary, a traveling salesman, spent most of his free time coaching his children's teams. What do you think Gary got out of seeing his kids?
Pure pride. He loved being called coach. He loved when those kids would say, Coach, Coach. Loved it.
I was Daddy's favorite. Parents say, oh, I don't have a favorite. No, I was always his favorite. I was more outgoing like his personality was.
When he was 10, Jody and his brothers decided to try a new sport, karate. There was a competitive fight team forming in Baton Rouge. The teacher, 24-year-old martial arts instructor, Jeff Doucet.
Arm bars, wrist locks, and chokeholds that come from judo.
He was kind of intimidating because he's, got the karate gi on and a belt, and I was like, oh, all right, we got to respect this guy.
Jeff would always do a lot of stuff with us, take a whole bunch of us to the movies, or hey, we're going skating. We'd all go to the skating range. He got to be where it was really fun to be around. You're like, man, this guy's awesome.
Doucet's only source of income was coaching, and without close friends or family in the area, he lived at the karate school.
I remember one time my dad felt so bad for him because we were going to eat family dinner, and my dad started crying, and he's like, he's so pitiful. And I'm like, what? And he goes, he doesn't have anybody. So my dad picked him up, brought him home, let him shower, gave him a fresh shirt to wear, and then took him to my grandparents' house to eat Sunday dinner that we did every Sunday.
After that night, Doucet began spending more time with Jody and his family. It is March 1983. Doucet is driving 10-year-old Jody home from practice.
We took turns just riding around this neighborhood. He would do the stick shift and the clutch, and we would steer. Well, we were driving around the block, and all of a sudden he put his hands in my lap, and I'm like, uh-oh. And then he quit.
And then I was like, okay, maybe that was an accident. And then I'm driving a little bit more and it happens again. And I'm like, whoa, well, that was him testing the boundaries to see how I'll respond. And I guess I passed the test.
Why not say anything right then?
I'm still 10 years old and I know that, okay, this ain't right, but what do? You don't know. You don't know how to tell.
How did it escalate from there?
Well, we were on a karate trip in Houston, Texas. He said, I'm going to suck your dick tonight. And I'm like, why? I don't know why. And then once it was old John Wayne movie was on the TV, he turned that TV off. All the kids were sleeping. And he just went underneath the covers.
Oh my God.
And he did that for about a month. And then after that's when he's like, all right, now I'm going to you. He would perform oral sex on me and then he'd have sex with me. And he did that almost every day, sometimes 2 times a day.
Jody tells no one. That summer, there's a national karate tournament in Dallas, and Jody wins first place for his skill group. Instead of staying with the team at a hotel, Jody's parents, June and Gary, make arrangements for him to spend the weekend with his uncle, who lives in the area. Jeff Doucet drops Jody off.
They didn't want Jody to stay over the weekend at my house. Jeff got out the car. Didn't speak to anybody. He was upset that Jody was staying. And he kissed him in the mouth. I told Gary, something's not right with this relationship. Gary stood by Jeff. And I told Gary, you're wrong. Something's not right. I don't even kiss my kids in the mouth.
Damn straight.
For the next 6 months, at the karate school and at hotels on road trips, Jody is raped almost daily.
I wanted him out of my life. I wanted him to stop. I didn't hate him.
Why not?
Because he was a fun guy, for the most part. It was just, the sexual stuff, it was over and done with quick, but we're going to the movies. We're still going on karate trips. I just didn't want to I didn't want to be someone's sex toy.
Now I'm going to stop it right there, and then we're going to go back to this. Jody, literally every interview, every podcast, your book, that story has never wavered. It has been the same exact thing. And what people don't understand is that when you go through that type of abuse, it is seared into your memory. So you never forget it. So it was hard to watch that because I know when it came time for me to say something, I was very embarrassed and I felt very ashamed. But for a male, I think it's 10 times worse.
Well, thankfully, Daddy made it to where I couldn't keep that a secret. Like, once he shot Jeff, it was out in the open. So I had to deal with it at 11 years old.
Right. And then the kit, the test kit confirmed your parents' worst nightmares. And that was I think the catalyst I think that was the moment where you got to do what you got to do, Dad.
Well, that's coming up in the video. Yeah, I lied. I denied that he had touched me and until the rape kit came back. And when the rape kit came back positive, I admitted, yeah, he did.
Well, you couldn't hide it. But it was like at 11 years old, you're such a baby still, right? We look at ourselves today, right? And it's so easy for us to tell our stories today because we've had so many years of softening the blow, and it's just it gets easier over time to talk about things like this. When I read this in your book too, like I said, this never wavered once. No matter if you look at him on the Donut Operator with Brandon Herrera, it's just the same words. When you said I didn't tell because he was a fun guy. I liked doing the things that we were doing, going to the movies and skating and all this, that, and the other. I just wanted him to stop making me a sex toy. And
That's it.
that is how this was. And you try to analyze why they do what they do, but we'll never fully grasp it because we're not sick, evil, twisted monsters like they are. But that is exactly how he kept you his toy, because he would do these horrific things to you. And then we're going to go have fun. We're going to go to the movies. We're going to go to the mall. We're going to go fishing. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And he kept you in a tangled web of deceit and lies and abuse, because that's he made himself like a child, like childlike, and what he got into your psyche of what's fun.
One of the things I left out of my book that I wanted to put into it, but I just forgot to put it in, is, have you ever seen the movie Sudden Impact with Clint Eastwood? It's the one where he made famous, like, go ahead, make my day.
Yes.
Well, that movie is about a woman who was seeking revenge on people who gang raped her and her sister at a party. And she found them, and she went and she was hunting them down, and she was killing them all. And me and Jeff went and saw that movie 3 times at the movie theater. And I just find that kind of ironic.
That is, it really is. It really is ironic, especially since he met his demise the way he did.
And he got killed by being a sexual predator, just like those people in that movie.
You know, it's so sad that, I'm watching the reaction I'm getting when I'm watching you grow up, and it opened up with a really great, like, touchy-feely introduction of June, of your mother, just beaming with pride and joy, talking about how your father loved coaching, and that was just his thing. He loved it. And it was so wholesome to see this American family, and just this all-American family that, we got dad as a traveling salesman, and it's just so cute to see your baby pictures and stuff. And then I get a glimpse of him on there, and it enrages me. Like, I remember coming across one of my perpetrators pictured on Facebook, before I went to prison, or was it after? Maybe it was, no, it was before. It was when I was in my cycle of addiction, and my perpetrator used his 17 or 16-year-old son as the boundary pusher, like you said. Like, you were in Jeff's car, or was that his car? Or did he borrow that from your family?
It was his girlfriend's car. It was not his car.
And when you and I spoke on the phone in great length, you had said that he was also abusing her children.
He was. We believe that he abused his nephews, so it was his family's children. I don't think that woman had children.
Because normally I remember when I was a kid, this guy was dating all these single mothers all over the neighborhood, and he was with this one lady, and she was like, he didn't do it, he didn't do it, he didn't do it. And we're trying to tell this lady, yes, he did, yes, he did. Not just to my kids, but to everybody else's kids. And she was in this perpetual state of denial. And then some years later, we had found out that she finally, because she went to court with him and all this, was stand by my man. And then we had come to realize that her own son was brutalized as well by the same guy. Do you think that he didn't have anything because he had burnt those bridges? maybe his family didn't want him because of that.
Well, I think that's why he was staying at the karate studio, because they didn't want him around their children.
Yeah. And you know what's really sad? When people like that go, well, I was abused as a kid. So, and it's almost as if like they want a free pass.
Yeah,
And
no
it's like,
excuse.
right. s- we were, that happened to us, but we didn't do that. It's sick. It's sick. So we have this is, we stopped this interview where you were, I'll back it up just a little bit, about 10 seconds, because I think it's so impactful of how, you, because we'll get into this part later. I see this on a couple of the podcasts too, where you got mad at your dad for a little while when you were a kid, because Jeff was gone. But
I
I
would
just
say
think it's
more
so
upset than mad.
a lot of fun. I just want abusing me. Upset, yeah, because all, you didn't have, he came somewhat of a friend to you. He befriended you, but if you, can you look back at it now, Jody, for it being for what it really truly was that this was a part of his grooming behaviors to where he just kept you in that cycle.
No, absolutely. No, I do that a lot. I try to look back and go, okay, I'm a sexual assault advocate, or anti-sexual assault advocate. And I try to look back and go, okay, all right, I try to tell the truth. How I was feeling at 11 years old is not how I feel at 52. So, yes, at the moment in 1984, when I first found out that Jeff had been killed, I was upset that Jeff died. I mean, I had been with this guy every day for a year. So yeah, that was traumatic to me. Um, but I eventually understood why my dad did what he did, and I told him that summer, and I think that meant a lot to him.
Good, good. I'm glad that you did that. I'm glad that you got the opportunity to do that. You know, it's almost like it actually is. It's the cycle of abuse, the abusive relationship, the toxic relationship. You look at the good, and the good out will always outweigh the bad. And this is a reason why you were upset. There was, yeah, this did happen, but all of this other fun stuff happened too. And I remember being in a relationship with my first kid's father for 7 years. And the moments where he was sweet, they were coming more few and far between than anything, and loving and caring and whatnots, right? And so I would look at that and go, yeah, but he might be hitting me, but there's these times where he's just sweet. And that's what I was holding on to, because they trauma bond you. That's how. It's like a Stockholm syndrome. They get you to care about them. And so you can overlook the bad, but eventually, like you said, I'm not the same person I was when I was 11. I'm 52 now. I look at it now where when I look at the person, which I don't even do anymore for years. But when I would look at him, my stomach just churned and my skin crawled. Trauma's a motherfucker, man. That is, it really is. It really is. It's weird. I don't know. I appreciate your story. I appreciate that you became who you became because of this. But you're not letting it define who you are. You do a lot of good things for a lot of people, Jody. I wanted to congratulate you on the good human being that you are, despite all of this.
I'm looking at two of my rescue kitties right now, and I found one on the interstate and the other one in a grocery store parking lot. And yeah, I try to be a good person.
That's it. That's all we can do is be a good person. Just and not let our past or our traumas define who we are. And I think you nailed it, kid. Well, I say that to everybody. So, all right, I'm going to restart this video. Not restart it from the beginning, obviously. Duh, why did I say that? I'm going to start where we left off, if you don't mind. Put us back over here. And
Why not?
Because he was a fun guy for the most part. It was just, the sexual stuff, it was over and done with quick, but we're going to the movies. We're still going on karate trips. I just didn't want to be I didn't want to be someone's sex toy.
February 19th, 1984. At 9 a.m., Jeff Doucet picks up Jody from his house to run an errand. Several hours pass, and there's no sign of Jody or Doucet.
uh-oh.
What are you thinking?
Where the hell is he? Where did he
Right.
take my child? Where's Jody? Now it's panic time.
Jody's mother contacts the authorities. Doucet, with Jody in the car, is driving west across the country. Their ultimate destination? California.
He didn't have a plan, so he really didn't tell me much like, oh, we'll be out there. He just said that, you're my son. I'm going to tell people you're my son. So it's the first time I saw the Hollywood sign, too. As a kid, I was excited. I was like, wow, I got chills looking at the Hollywood sign. Then we took a bus that day, same day, to Anaheim, and then the next day we went to Disneyland.
February 28th, 1984. 9 days after leaving with Jody, Doucet calls Jody's mother from the Samoa Hotel in Anaheim. Unaware the FBI is tracing the call, he is still on the phone with her when they locate him.
I hear this banging on the door, and the guy was yelling, break, break, police. And I heard the phone hit the table, and I could still hear them, get up against the wall, get up. And then boom, it goes dead.
That had to be petrifying.
30 minutes, an hour later, this man calls back, and all I said, we got him. I said, I don't care about him. Where's my son? Where's Jody? And he goes, oh, we've got him. He was right there in the room. It was like, oh, thank God.
Jeff Doucet is arrested on suspicion of aggravated kidnapping. Jody is brought to the hospital. There, doctors examine him and administer a rape kit to be sent to a lab for analysis. The next day, he's flown back home to Louisiana, where his family is waiting at the airport.
As a parent in your position, did you learn anything from this?
Just how much I love my children. I might be a little bit more protective or overprotective. I don't know.
All right, I'm stopping it right there. That, that always rubbed me the wrong way. That rubbed me the wrong way, Jody. What did you learn about this? The fuck you mean? What did I if that isn't like rubbing salt into the wound, I don't know what is. Really. How did I'm sure, I don't know. I can't really say how much your family spoke about this after the fact. I don't know. And I don't want to assume. But has your dad ever said, like, what the hell? Or did he know? Because I know you said he worked for the news station and stuff like that. And maybe he knew the guy who said, I don't know. But am I getting it right? Am I reading it correctly? I know your dad had a smile and everything else, and he basically said, look, I'm more protective now than ever, but rubbing salt into that wound of what did you learn from this? Has he talked to you about, had he talked to you about that? Like how messed up, or was your dad just like more focused on getting you home and safe? Because for me, I saw that as some kind of like a what the hell you asking that type of question for, you know?
Well, the funny thing is that quote, I might be more protective or overprotective, that came 16 days before the shooting. So he didn't know about the sexual abuse when he made that comment.
Oh, wow. Because this is right before you were flown back from California to Baton Rouge.
Not New Orleans.
You guys are up in New Orleans, and okay, Baton Rouge is
Yeah,
the
no.
airport. Okay.
Baton Rouge is the airport he shot him in, but they wanted me to fly a direct flight, and the only direct flight was from LA to New Orleans. So they traveled an hour to New Orleans airport to pick me up.
Wow. I can't imagine the anguish and the relief of your parents and your brother. You have a brother and a sister, correct?
I have an older brother, I have a younger brother, and I have the sister's the youngest.
Okay, so there's 4 of you.
Yep.
Now, I just can't imagine as a parent. Um, we spoke about this before we went live with the Amber Alert system. Amber is buried with the Abbott brothers in Texas from Pantera, and I can't imagine how relieved your parents were because at this point in time, they're just thinking Jeff took you. They
Right.
didn't know what else was going on, but your uncle knew. Your
They
uncle
they
was shot
they kind of suspected by at that point, but it was confirmed 9
by
days
the kit,
later.
right? That they took at the hospital. Well, when I went in when I was a kid and I had finally said something, it was 3 years after. And my mom took me to the med center, like a urgent care. There were only male doctors on call. There were no female nurses or any. It was male doctors. And they said, we need to do an examination. And it involves taking your clothes off. And I panicked and I says, no, 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 no. I wouldn't let them do it. I wish I would have because my perpetrator got away with it with me. Didn't call me to witness until after he had already um, repeat violated somebody else's kids. But if I would have had the courage to say, "Yeah, go ahead and examine me," maybe I could have stopped him. It eats at me today. What is going through your mind after everything that you've been through? How did they ease your mind at all at the hospital? Were you freaked out? Because I know I was too scared.
I wasn't that freaked out because I knew it was going to happen. But the funny thing is I had a female doctor and a male nurse, and that was California in 1984.
Wow. So maybe she had her way of, more maternal way of, hey, listen, we're here to help you.
Yes, they were very understanding and nice. They were not as threatening as the Baton Rouge police were because the Baton Rouge police, when I came back home, they tried to break me. They knew. But they told my parents, they said, look, when we put that kid through, he either is too brainwashed, he'll never admit it, or that man never touched him. And they were wrong on both cases.
Right. Yeah, it's when I went to my police department and my mother took me there, it was all male detectives again, not one female patrol officer, nada, because back in the 80s, right around this time, and this happened in 85, and I didn't divulge till 88. So come 88, I was in front of a bunch of male detectives, and that's what they did to me. when did this happen? How was it? Blah, 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 blah. It was just like too abrasive. And I got so scared that I had already been told if I tell anybody, my mom's going to die, my brother's going to die, my sister's going to die, my grandma's going to die, my dog's going to die, my cat's going to die. He threatened I'll kill everybody. And so in my mind, my 8-year-old little mind, I was like, you know what? I better not say anything because my mommy's going to die. He's going to kill my mommy. He's going to kill my dad, my brother, my sister. But that's exactly what happened to me. They tried to talk to me, not as an 8-year-old victim, but as a criminal. That was the only word that just came to my head.
And what people need to keep in mind is that it is our 8-year-old mind, it is our 11-year-old mind. You know, we're putting this emphasis on children to stop the abuse, but the adults are the ones that need to notice the signs and symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like your uncle, his spidey senses were tingling. Why, Jeff was so comfortable to kiss you on your mouth in front of your uncle? That's crazy to me because normally they're a little bit more slicker than that.
I didn't say he was good at what he did.
Well, no, of course you didn't.
I mean, you don't call collect when you're, kidnapping a child.
Right. Right. No. But I'm looking at the timeline of all of this, right? And how crazy is it normally that they don't let you call home? Like, I don't even, I remember when I talked to you on the phone, you said that your mom wasn't even aware that the FBI had been tracing the calls. She had no clue.
Yeah. I mean, she asked for time and charges. And what that meant was when the collect call was over with, because we were out of money, so we had to call collect. And that meant the operator came back on the phone. By the way, operators used to you could dial 0 on phones. I mean, who's called the operator in the last 20 years? But they still probably have them. But the operator came back on the phone and told my mother, that call was, 17 minutes and it costs, $43. And that's when Mike Barnett took the phone and said, look, we're investigating the kidnapping. I need to know exactly where that phone call came from. And she gave him the Samoa Motel in Anaheim, California.
Well, good. We froze there for a second. It's amazing, even like nowadays, right? With the internet and stuff, the predators of yesteryear had to go through a lot of legwork. They really did. It's a lot easier for the predators to gain access to kids these days. And at one click of a mouse. And that's all it takes. It's so dangerous anymore, and they don't have to work nearly as hard as they used to. They can groom your kids online without you even knowing. It's crazy how times have changed and made, with technology as a blessing and a curse. Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to dial 0 no more for a collect call. Police work, technology has been instrumental in helping with police work and all this, that, and the other. But again, the predators are going to capitalize where they can. And this is why it's so important. Like with this question that reporter asked your father really irritated my core. But now that I know that this was 19 days before Jeff was shot, now I kind of get a brief sense of, okay, like we're just focused on getting our kid back. So I'm glad that you got to explain that to me because that was an unanswered question that I had. And I forgot to ask you when we were on the phone before. But it was just always bothered me, that question. Like, this man and this woman and these children just got their son and their sibling back. Like, I just don't know why that irritated me the way that it did. But
You want to hear? You want to hear something messed up?
sure.
It's thanks to Ancestry.com. My father had a son he never knew about.
What?
I have an older brother I've never met. That
Are,
is my father's child.
have you still never?
We're Facebook friends, and he liked a happy birthday post or something. But yeah, I have a brother I've never met that my father never knew about.
You're kidding me. Does he doesn't know that you're brothers?
No, he knows. He knows. But
And
we've never met.
where does he live?
Alabama.
You're kidding. Right there.
Yep. Now
We should do that.
I connected through his son. He had a son that was adopted, and I connected through him. But yeah, I do have an older brother. I've never met, and my dad never knew about.
Your half brother, but your father never knew.
Never
That
knew
is
about.
that's so how did that transpire on ancestry.com? I think that was the
That
Fed's way of getting our DNA, but
that damn DNA. No, I had no problem giving up my DNA because I ain't done nothing wrong.
correct.
But I did think that was kind of interesting that I have an older brother I've never met.
That's insane. That's crazy. Your dad was a traveling salesman though. So
Well, well, considering he's older than my older brother, I think my dad was just a horny teenager.
it happens. It happens. So we're now back to the E360. Why do I keep saying E360? E60 ESPN video. Here's where you arrive back from California. Now, you said something interesting before we get back to this video. You had said that you had to call your mom collect because he had no more money. But he took you to Hollywood. He had bought the hotel, obviously, and he took you to Disney, which I don't know how much it was back in the 80s. It's $200 today for each ticket. But how
It
did
was
that
probably
go?
$36 or something back then.
Wow, that's still a lot. Back in the 80s, that's a lot. Now, was he apprehensive about calling your mom? Like, how did that all go on? How did that go down? Like, were you like, no, like, really, I have to call my mom or she's gonna think that like you killed me? Like, how did that go?
No, actually, 1 week after I'd been gone, we were in Anaheim, and he told me, he said, "Call your mom, let her know you're okay." I mean, so he was, I guess, a considerate kidnapper. But no, he let me call my mother to let her know I was okay.
Wow. Well, yeah, because I was wondering about that too. Like, how did that all transpire? Because typically, when you kidnap somebody, the last thing you're gonna do, besides if you're gonna call for ransom money, you know, you're not gonna let that especially with statistics the way they are with the whole Amber Alert. The whole point of the Amber Alert is to get that message out as quickly as possible to get the last seen with, what kind of vehicle they're in. The purpose is because after 24 to 48 hours, the chances of finding the victim, it just disintegrates after 48 hours. And so after a whole week, your mother, your father, everybody in your family is probably just not sleeping, not eating, just absolutely petrified. And that call from you must have been like a load of bricks off your family's shoulders that you were alive. But that was that consideration that he made, that considerate gesture that he made was his undoing. Well, not all the way, but it was a catalyst to, you know,
I don't
March
think my
16th.
parents. I don't think my parents thought Jeff was going to hurt me. They just didn't know where I was. So I think there was that factor. And it wasn't until the rape kit came back that, my dad was like, all right, this went too far.
Yeah, but like, when you're typically taking somebody on vacation, you typically get the permission of the parents first, right? So him just saying he didn't even have a plan. He didn't fill you in on that. It was just like, I'm not going to take you home. Like that had to be scary, but like you had known him, he had groomed you for all this time. So a week going out to California probably didn't seem like a bad idea at the time, other than what he,
Like I said before, I tried to make the best of all situations, and I enjoyed my trip to California. Like, I mean, I went to El Paso, I went to fucking Phoenix, Arizona. I got to see bums on Skid Row. I Yeah, I enjoyed my trip.
Yeah, yeah. Now what was crazy, I was always also thinking about the kit that they, that they took. Um, they had got positive DNA. So, he made sure to take you to these fun places to, you know, because I think if he hadn't have done that, you would have told long ago. That was another boundary pusher of Jeff's was, I know if I continue to make this kid's life fun, he's not going to tell on me. He's going to want to hang out with me because we're doing all this fun stuff.
Yep.
But it just in the back of my mind when I'm hearing you say all of these things, like I had fun, I got to see the Hollywood sign, I got to see the bums on Skid Row, I got to see, El Paso, Tucson, and all these fun places. But still, we all know what was happening. I like how you said that I tend to look at the bright side of things, even when you're faced with that type of trauma and abuse. It's amazing how resilient children are at that age. It really is. But I know after what had happened to me at 5, I was never the same. It stole a part of my soul away. It stole a part of my identity. It became a part of my identity. And I hated it. It was like that scarlet letter, like everybody's going to know. Everyone's going to know that this happened to me. And what's so crazy is I was only in the newspaper a couple times. You were nationwide news and even some international news too. You've been through it, man. You're a trooper.
I remember being in like Kmart, and the Star magazine had Michael Jackson on the front cover, and like page 5 was like the story of what had happened to me, and it's just I have it, I still have it, but it was just it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy. Not every day that you get to be in the same issue of with Michael Jackson. All right, so I'm going to play the rest of this video, you guys. We're now going to watch as Jody is brought back home. Well, he's not not home. He's in New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Did I say it right? New Orleans.
Think about the Saints. I used to struggle with that as a kid. Like, is it New Orleans or is it New Orleans? And I was like, you never hear anyone go New Orleans Saints. It's always the New Orleans Saints. So it's New Orleans.
New Orleans Saints. Did I do it okay? I don't know if I did it. Because when I go down there, I was dealing with some Cajun motherfuckers, and they were by you. Like dude was fishing with the alligators and stuff. I was like, he's like, you see them, their eyeballs right there? I'm like, yes, that's an alligator.
I've seen that.
A gator.
I've seen a dude sitting on a pier just alligator looking at him, and he's just fishing. And I was like, who's going to get the fish first, the alligator or the guy?
The guy did. How much you want to bet? You guys from the bayou, man, you guys are tough as nails. And you know what's so funny is when we were talking about Pantera earlier, my favorite band, that's my favorite metal band of all time. Phil Anselmo is from New Orleans. He really is. And he joined Pantera after Terry's, I forget what Terry's, Polo or something. I don't know what Terry's last name. But Terry, they were more glam rock before Cowboys from Hell, and they brought in this powerhouse from New Orleans, and yeah, it was all history. Greatest metal band of all time. I don't care what anybody says.
I was at the Big Apple Cafe in technically Fort Worth, Texas, and Dimebag Darrell told me that, like, you know, his family's from Louisiana, and he was like, I'm gonna do a shot. Let's do a shot. And so I didn't drink at the time, but I was like, you know what? This guy from Pantera is buying me a shot. I'll take it. So I did a shot with Dimebag.
Well, the Abbotts are from Arlington, Texas, and the Abbott brothers, Vinnie Paul and Dimebag Darrell, were from Arlington, and Phil Anselmo from New Orleans. But like it was such a powerhouse band. They shot up to #1 with Vulgar Display of Power, probably the best heavy metal album of all time. And people can dispute me on this. That's fine. We all can agree to disagree. That's my favorite album, so I'm going to say it's the best, right? But had more #1 hits than any other.
The sad thing is like I was there with Dimebag, Vinny, and that was just kind of like my world. And I was not a Pantera fan. Like whenever I did the karaoke with Dimebag and the other guy, and I was playing the air guitar, somebody was like, "Dude, that was Pantera," and I'm like,
They're just two cool Texans. I didn't give a shit.
I called him Redbeard. I was like, Redbeard. You know, Redbeard was doing my show.
You know, it was so crazy is when Pantera broke up and Damage Plan had formed. It was Dime and Vinnie Paul on the drums. I had tickets to the Alarosa Villa when they were shot, and they were both. Well, Vinnie Paul was not shot, but Dime was.
No, Dime was. Yeah, Vinnie Paul died of like a heart attack years later.
Yeah, he did. Yep, playing. He was about to tour with Hell Yeah. I know his tour bus driver, my good friend Saul. He's an awesome, awesome, awesome human being. He still drives tour buses for all kinds of cool metal bands and all kinds of famous people and stuff like that. And him and Vinnie Paul were remarkably close, and he always shares pictures on his Facebook and stuff. And it's just so sad because, like, when Vinnie Paul died, when you get in the car and your Bluetooth kicks on and just your music starts playing, and I was driving to Walmart and I hadn't even heard the news, and Moth, the song from Hell Yeah, came on, and I had not found out about it, and it was literally like within moments of his passing, and like maybe 15 minutes to a half an hour later, I had got the news from Saul. He had messaged me on Facebook. Did you see that Vinnie Paul had just passed away? And I says, dude, Moth was playing. I got in my car and it just started. It was the first song because he had joined Hell Yeah. And it was the guy from Mudvayne, right? And it was just like, wow, it was so intense. But that's so cool that you got to hang out with those. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and that's fun. I like to hear that, those kind of aspects of your life. This is rough, but at least we can't let this define you. So let's go back to this video and finish it out, and then we're going to watch the clip. So I think we can stick it out on YouTube. I don't see why not. I don't if they're going to censor this, it's just what a shame on their perspective. So now, if you have just tuned in, this is Jody's arrival back to the airport, he had to the parents and siblings had to drive from Baton Rouge up to New or was it's over
Yeah, it was,
from
yeah, it was a direct flight from LAX to New Orleans. But let me just say one thing. When you watch this video, look how much I look like an abused child. Remember, I said I look back from 52 to 11, like looking as a 52-year-old man at this video. I look like an abused child. My hands are in my pockets. I don't hug my parents.
you're
My
shrinking.
mother literally whispered in my ear. She said, "Smile." And then the guy puts the camera in my face. Is like, "What do you think about all this?" They would never do that now. All right, so watch.
Yeah. Great insight.
I might be a little bit more protective or overprotective. I don't know.
March 1st,
Oh my
an
God,
emotional
you're
family
right.
reunion at New Orleans International Airport. Gary, June, meet Jody after his unexpected California visit.
Here's that gorgeous blonde hair. Are you okay? Honey, are you okay? How do y'all feel now? Fantastic. Fantastic. Looks good. I love that backhand. He doesn't at all. What do you think about this whole thing? I don't know.
It was just nothing like it. He was there. He was okay. He was home. I finally knew for the first time in 10 days where my son was.
My God, man.
Once home, Jody denies he's been assaulted to both his parents and the police. 12 days after his return, the results of the rape kit come back positive for traces of semen.
Oh no.
I didn't know. But he feels so guilty. I mean, that's your baby. Then came the act. No tears. Calm.
I was comforted in her calmness. So it allowed me to open up and feel comfortable to talk about it more. And I felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders. I felt like, okay, I can be me again.
March 16th, 1984, 2 weeks after Jody came home, Doucet is flown back to Louisiana to face charges there. He is escorted on the plane by 2 Baton Rouge detectives.
First, he started telling me about his own life as growing up and how he was molested as a child.
He had confessed to molesting a number of children many times. He couldn't even remember how many times. We were going to build a case against him and was going to send him to the penitentiary for the rest of his life.
At 9 p.m., they landed.
Now I'm going to stop it right here because they do a close up of Jeffrey Doucet.
I don't think they do on this video.
I have the video. We'll do that at the end here. We will kick off of YouTube because it is graphic. When you pointed out, look at me. I look like an abused child. Because had you not have gone through what you did, yeah. He dyed your hair.
Yeah.
Well, because when you had talked to us and told us that he said, "You're my son. You're going to be my son. I'm your dad." You had to look like him. Here's this guy with dark hair, dark features, and of course, you have blonde hair. So he was planning on keeping you, or right, not being detected and at all. But you could just, if that hadn't gone on and he wasn't abusing you like that, any kind of reunion video that you see where maybe a kid goes missing in the woods or something. Can't even just say kidnapping because, but yeah, I noticed that because when I look at pictures of me as a kid, like this son of a bitch took us to Niagara Falls, and I remember asking my dad's girlfriend, because they were split up, to cut all my hair off because I wanted to be as unattractive as humanly possible because I had this long, beautiful, like dishwater blonde hair, like honey. It was like honey. It was down to my butt, this hair, right? And I had my dad's girlfriend cut my hair all the way up here. Like I had like a bowl cut, right? And I remember looking at these pictures where this creep took my family to Niagara Falls, and I was just like this. Like everyone else was smiling at the camera, and here's me looking down at the ground. It's just like I said, it takes away it really does. It takes something away from you. It takes your shine away. It takes your joy. It's just I can't explain it any other way. I can't imagine like being alone with him. Did
I mean,
did you
you can see I was an abused child. I mean, like hands in the pocket, you know, not hugging my parents. I mean, that looking back, it was pretty obvious.
did he like try to like say like where you're not going back? Like did he try to poison your mind against your parents, or did he
Oh
see
yeah,
any?
absolutely. No, yeah, he had coercive control over me. Like I would do things when he wasn't even around, not to upset him, even though he wasn't around.
Like can you emphasize on that?
I remember one time I got a phone call from a classmate. I was in sixth grade, and I had a cordless phone, and I ran into the back bathroom, and I hid in the shower to take a phone call. And all they wanted was for me to tell them a joke. They were at a party, and I didn't want him to walk in and see me on the phone talking to my peers because he would have got upset about that. And so I just, even though he went around, I still was avoiding trying to be around him or him seeing me doing something that would upset him.
Wow. Like he literally thought he was in a relationship with you.
Oh yeah, that's why he took me. That's what I tell people. I was like, since I was his love interest for the past year, that's why he took me.
And on the plane and the on when he was escorted by those two detectives from Baton Rouge, he tried to give the whole sob story of, "Oh, well, this happened to me as a kid." And then the almighty bomb drops. He don't even know how many kids he's done this to. Hundreds probably, if not it's insane because kids the guy that did that to me was also a serial offender, and he had done this to not only his sons but also his stepdaughter from the time she was in a crib. That's how I divulged what had happened to me. I heard my grandma and my mom talking about baby Lisa and how Tony would rape her from the time she was in the crib, and I said, "What's rape?" I was 8. "What's rape?" And they explained it to me, and I said, "Well, he did that to me too." And that's the firestorm. That's when it all came crashing down, but,
What
it
what happened to him?
he went to prison for, offending and, attacking a brother and sister. Um, he dated their mother, again, brought in his teenage son was the buffer, was the boundary pusher, and would show them pornography and stuff like that, because first it was, he would send the teenage son in to fondle and, eventually have intercourse with the kids, and, if they didn't tell, that was daddy's way to they were a father-son duo. Um, he had gotten in trouble for that, and since I was already listed as a victim in my case, I just found the newspaper article a couple months ago, and Victor Vigolucci was the prosecutor, and he said we didn't prosecute because we didn't there were too many inconsistencies in her story, because if I would give them a little bit, but I felt so attacked by these police officers that I would say, "No, he didn't touch me," or maybe he did, but I don't. It was so up and down that I just couldn't talk to these people because they were so unapproachable with me. They didn't treat me like a victim. They didn't treat me like a child. So I screwed everything up. I was just too afraid. I was also in the back of my mind saying, he's going to kill my mom. He's going to kill my sister. He's going to kill my brother, my dog, my cat. He's going to kill my grandma. He's going to kill my great grandma, and so they didn't prosecute for my case, but it was crazy because this was in Aurora, Ohio, where this all transpired, and I spent a lot of time with my grandma in Maple Heights, and like I felt safer there. I was the only one other white girl. The rest was all black neighborhood. I felt safer there than in an all white neighborhood where I lived because of what was happening to me. And my mom met my stepfather a year after I told what had happened to me. And his kids were from a city called Mentor. He grew up in Mentor. His kids grew up in Mentor, and blah, blah, blah. So my stepfather moved us out here because my brother and sister were getting into some trouble and in Aurora, and this crap had happened to me and what have you. And this creep actually started working at a Honda dealership here in Mentor, and he met a Vicky and her 2 kids, and he molested her 2 kids as well. And since I was a victim, already listed as a prior victim of him, a lady detective in Mentor, had called my mom and said, "We need to hear her story. We need to hear it now." And when I was 12, in 1992, is when he got busted for touching that other kid and his sister. I was waiting in the nurse's office. I was 12, I was in 7th grade. My mom she was set to come get me to testify against him. As soon as he found out I was gonna testify against him, he pled guilty. He switched his plea. I didn't have to go. But he was found guilty, and he was subsequently sent to prison for 25 years, I believe. And he came up for appeal in 97, and I had to go in front of a grand jury, and I was there with his youngest son, Scott, and his oldest, the other pedo, Tony Jr. Tony Jr. was going to bed, daddy, and Scott wasn't. Scott said, "No, this man was a monster, and he did this to me and my brother." My brother just, for some odd reason, is because when Scott was the youngest, so Anthony Jr. was getting it, right? And when Scott was born and Lisa was born, all the attention went on to Scott and to Lisa. So this little one, the oldest brother, turned out to be the pedo, right? And so when I was 17, I had to go in front of a grand jury because he went up for appeal and tried to say that there was all kinds of problems with the case, there's blah blah blah. But my testimony kept him in prison, along with his youngest son, Scott's. The oldest brother, the asshole's teenage son, who's now works for the Department of Education, he's about 40 minutes away from me. But dad had died in prison. The father had died in prison while I was in prison, actually. And I think you and I briefly spoke about that, and I'm going to keep that at that. But what we had spoke about, I'm going to keep it between you and I. But yeah, that's how that went down. So I finally, and after the fact that he lost his appeal, every parole hearing that he went up for parole is when I got to speak and share my story and say, "Look at this guy is, don't let him out." And I used to leave the parole hearings like this, Jody. And I would always think about your dad. I said, look, if you let one out, you're going to be putting one in, because if he gets out of prison, I don't know what I'm going to do to him. I said, so keep him in and you'll keep me out of prison. And every time it worked, they kept him in prison and he died there. So 2015, he died in prison where he belonged. And so it was he died when I was in prison, and he was like 30 minutes away. I passed Marion on my way to Marysville, and I just got this sick feeling in my stomach, like, yep, there he is. He's in Marion. We're passing Marion Correctional Institution, and because Ohio has 26 institutions, we have like the largest prison numbers ever. It's crazy. And I remember that on my way home, on my way down to prison, I remember seeing where my rapist was. He was there, And it was like, damn, how the fuck did I get here, for possessing drugs over the telephone and being housed with those types of people, those women that were sex offenders too. It was really, really like, wow. And they all use the same story. Like, I was molested too. So fucking what? So was I, and I didn't do it. So
Yeah. Go into comedy.
yeah. Like you and me, yeah, we went through what we went through, but we could never look at a kid like that. I don't know how anybody can. But they say it's more of a power struggle. It's not about sex.
I kind of disagree with that.
I do too. 100%. These people are
Jeff liked little boys. That's it. He liked little boys. It wasn't about power. He used the power and the control to keep me from telling, but he looked at me like I was a Baywatch beauty.
Right. Yeah. And it's so crazy when I hear people say that, like, it's about a power thing. I'm like, no, it ain't. No, it ain't. They are sexually attracted to kids. Don't tell me that it's a power thing. It's a sexual attraction, and that is why they cannot be rehabilitated. If it was a power struggle thing, that could be fixed. That's a personality thing. Yeah, it could be fixed. It could be treated. This can't be treated.
No.
So I'm gonna rewind it a little bit. Your dad's at a payphone, and briefly, your dad worked for a news station, and he was at the diner that he always went to. I'll let you tell the story of how he got wind of the time, the place, and
Right. So he worked at the news station when he was in college, and he was friends with everybody. He was on the bowling team, and the Friday of the shooting, he was at the Cotton Club's restaurant, which was probably a half mile from the news station. And the program director, his name was Bob Shadell, he said, when they bring your boy back? And my dad was like, well, they ain't gonna tell me. Like, they ain't gonna tell me. And he goes, I'm gonna find out for you. And he went to the payphone, called the news station, came back and told him, oh, he's coming in tonight. So my dad had that knowledge, and that's what eventually led him to the airport.
And now a lot of people speculated and said and have this big misconception or this lie that your dad wasn't even on the phone with anybody.
No, he was on the phone with his best friend.
He was on the phone with his best friend. And what did your dad say to his best friend?
He said, here they come. I'm pulling the gun out of my boot. You're going to hear the shot. And he turned around and shot him, and he heard the shot.
Well, when I saw an interview with your father, what he had said is that he didn't actually know what he was going to do. So it was not premeditated, because he didn't know if he was going to just beat his ass or what have you. He didn't know.
No, I believe that. Like, he did not know. But when he saw him come walking, he was like, you know what? I got this goddamn gun, and I'm about to fucking take him out. So, yeah, he didn't go there to shoot him, but he did have the gun. And when he saw his face, that's when he determined, yeah, you know what? One of us or both of us are dying tonight.
You know what's so crazy, too, Jody? When you're watching them perp walk him, he has that fucking smirk on his face that you just want to wipe off.
No,
Knowing what he did.
that's the most beautiful part is I noticed that as a kid. Like, yeah, he had that fucking smirk. Like, you know what? I'm gonna beat this shit. I'm getting out of this crap, and boom, nope, you're gone.
Yeah, you fucking ain't. That smirk was wiped off his face real quick.
Yeah, he did
Lights
have a smirk.
out.
He did have a smirk on his fucking face.
He did. Because I will never forget watching this clip, and I've watched it a lot. I've watched it a lot with pride. With like, yes, Gary, yes. Not why, Gary, why? Yes, Gary, yes. Because this guy is walking up, and even though he's handcuffed, he's just watch the smirk on Jeff Doucet's face. Just watch, and you'll know what we're speaking of, right? Because I've studied this. I've tried my best to study and just dissect how your dad did that 180 and just, it was beautiful. It was probably one of the most beautiful things. It was like a ballerina. He just pirouetted and then pop, and it was it. So here's this clip here is the end of the boo-hoo whine and crying. I was molested too. Boo-hoo. And then he spills the beans. Well, I don't know how many kids I've done this to. It's that many. Not anything like, oh my God, you know, I've done this and I deserve to be punished. You gotta lock me up. None of that. And his smirk, just watch the smirk on his face, and tell me that if you believe he deserved it. Let me know in the comments. And I want to highlight this comment real quick. Reality Pocket here says, hell of a shot, Gary. I wish I could have told him that. I'm sure that Gary Plauché has heard that more times than we might ever know. All right, let's do this. Let's finish and watch the smirk get wiped off his face.
Molesting a number of children many, many, many times. He couldn't even remember how many times. We were going to build a case against him and was going to send him to the penitentiary for the rest of his life.
At 9 p.m., they
Watch the
landed.
smirk. There it is. Yes, Gary, yes.
Our lead story tonight, a Baton Rouge man arrested for the recent kidnapping of a 10-year-old boy has just
Watch
been
his hair.
gunned down as detectives brought him back from California.
I just love that puff of hair. You know? Yeah. I love that. Your dad is a hero, and we'll show the unedited clip towards the end on X and on Rumble, but we're not going to be able to show it on YouTube here. So you guys make sure you're following me on X. It's I took it off so that we could see Jody in the airport. But here's this. It's x.com / I can't fucking talk. / at JustGenRx. You can go look at that because that's where we'll play the uncensored version. I have it and it's fucking awesome. But yeah, here's where they say, why, Gary? Why did now these police officers knew your father, correct, Jody?
Actually, one did. The one that was walking with Jeff did not know my dad. The one that yelled, why, Gary, why, knew my dad. He's the one that told them about the hospital report.
Okay. Well, why, Gary, why? You know why. Hello? You know why. My goodness.
Well,
like the stupidest
no, he
question
knew
ever.
why. But that's not the why he was asking. He was like, why would you put yourself in a position to go to jail for the rest of your life when you have 4 kids and a wife at home?
I
That's
get it.
what the why was for.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you, because I'm like, what do you mean why? That's
Yeah,
why.
he's the one that got the hospital report, so he knew why. He's the one that told Daddy.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, oh well, you saved the taxpayers a bunch of money, and actually, Jody, the bright side of this, your daddy saved you from having to go up on that stand and testify and tell a bunch of strangers, not like they didn't already know, because what had happened to you was broadcasted everywhere, but it spared you from having to testify in a court of law and rehashing all of those and having to
But
look at him in court.
but I look at it like this: like he denied me the chance to do that because I
Yeah.
think I would have done good.
Maybe you would have, but maybe you wouldn't have. I and maybe at that time you were ready to say, you know what, he ain't getting near me. I'm gonna say what, and I wanted to confront. I feel you, because although my perp was sent to prison, not because of me, because of the case after me, I wanted to testify so bad. I was so brave and I was ready to go. And when he pled guilty, it denied me that right. He took it away from me. Your dad, yeah, he took that away from you, but it came from a good place. It really did.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not mad at him. Like
I know.
right,
I
he
know.
didn't go to jail, so that was good.
I know. It's like well, the first thing I said to you when we connected on the phone was, I'm sure I speak for a lot of people when I say that we all wish we had a dad like your dad, because I remember sitting at the dining room table with my father. His visits were coming more few and far between, and like the glasses that are on your dad's face when he went to the airport, my perpetrator wore these aviator glasses, but they were his seeing glasses. They weren't tinted. They weren't sunglasses, right? And I could see myself in the reflection of his glasses. And we were all sitting at the dining room table, and my dad came over, and my dad was like cock diesel, this like Vietnam vet, like badass, right? And I remember sitting there wanting to tell my dad so bad what he was doing to me, because this was in the heat of it, in the thick of it. And he was just glaring at me like, I fucking dare you to say something. I'll kill your mother. He told me that. I will kill your mother. And then I'm going to kill your brother. And then I'm going to kill your sister. And then I'm going to kill you and your grandma. He went down the whole line. Like, I was petrified, because as a 5-year-old child, when an adult says that to you, you believe him. I believed him. And so I was petrified. And it was just, I remember the last time I fought back, because the first time what had happened was my mom went out and got a babysitter for us. This girl, her name was Jennifer Rosenfeld, and she was 16 when I was like 5. So she was in charge of watching my brother, my sister, and myself while my mom went out. And he came over and he was showing all of us porn and shit. And it was like John Holmes porno. I'll never forget it. And it was time for me to go to bed. And he reminded, like, she's got to go to bed. And I remember him telling them, I'm going to read her a story, get her to sleep. Like, don't come in the room. Like, I'll get her to sleep and la, 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 because I was 5. My brother and sister are 4 and 5 years older than me. So they were in the living room like literally feet away. A door separated us. And I'm laying in my bed, and I remember hearing him undo his belt buckle. And he came like up to me and he asked me to give him head. And I was like, dude, no, I'll throw up. And I can't believe I said that as a 5-year-old kid. And I knew like, no, I'm not putting that in my mouth. No. Cause he's like, open your mouth. I was like, And then he proceeded to sexually assault me. And then he was so heavy because he was this big fat fuck. Like I was this 5-year-old child and I'm little. Like now I'm 5 foot and like 117 pounds. And so at that age, I had to have been, God, maybe 42 inches tall and maybe 40 pounds. I was teeny tiny. And the weight of his body, because he was over 200 pounds, the weight of his body was crushing my chest and I couldn't breathe. I remember gasping for air. And then he would flip me over on my stomach. And that went on for like, it seemed like an eternity. And I just can't believe to this day that my brother and sister and Jennifer were out in the living room and they didn't come like peek in or anything. Like the fuck? Some old man goes in, like 40 something year old man goes in the room with your sister and you're not going to go check on her. And I remember like he ruined my underwear. They were bloody and everything else. And I had thrown them in the bathroom garbage can underneath a bunch of stuff, like, and there was a bag in there, and I shoved it. I shoved them underneath there, and after that, my personal hygiene took a hit. Like I didn't want to take a bath. My mom fought with me, like to take a bath, and I remember like it was weeks. I was like 5 years old. It was weeks. Like I was like, I remember getting in the bath, and my mom like, you have to take a bath, and the water was like brown because I was so petrified. Like I hurt so bad because he ripped me all up. And I remember as a kid I used to draw penises all the time. And I was just watching something on that. And kids do that. Kids who are sexually abused draw sex organs. It's just what they do. And that's another sign of abuse.
I had a story in my book. There was a girl, she drew a picture of a turtle with a erect penis. And when the teacher went to the girl and was like, what is this? She's like, it's a dick. And I want to say she was like 7, 8 years old. Like 7, 8-year-olds shouldn't have that knowledge. And it turned out her brother, who had been molested, was acting out on her and was sexually abusing her. And so, yeah, that was something that stands out. I mentioned that in my book, but that's one of the cases that I remember the most.
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. And I told you what I saw, right? Outside my window. See, the first time what had happened was his son had fondled me, and then his father had bought, because he was dating my mother, and he had bought a dildo for my mom. And I thought it was a hot dog because that's what it looked like back in the 80s. Like it was a hot dog to me. That's what I thought it was. And so he used it on me, his teenage son. And that night I laid in my mom's bed. I'm sorry, my mom's bed, because he had taken my mom out. But Tony can watch your daughter. He'll watch her while we go out to dinner and stuff. And he wined and dined my mother. And I remember after that, I lay in bed and all I heard was thousands of people screaming. And I'm sobbing and I'm crying because I can't get rid of the sound, right? It was like I was in hell. I'll never forget this till the day I die. I lay there crying because I can't get this sound to stop. It was like I was in a room, a closed off room with thousands of people screaming in agony. And shortly thereafter, when I was laying in my bed, it was right around the sun had just gone down. And I was laying in our princess canopy bed there. My sister and I shared a bed. And our ranch style home was on a slab, no basement. Our windows were really high up, like 7, 8 feet in the air. And my dad, before he had left, had put berry bushes there, blackberry bushes, and they had prickers on them, raspberry bushes and blackberry bushes. My dad was smart. Like, I'm going to put these pricker bushes under my daughter's window so no creep can look in their windows with a ladder, right? So there was no way that you can get a ladder up without me hearing it, because there was no metal sound, no nothing, no sound at all. And you get that feeling when somebody's looking at you and you automatically glance over and someone's staring at you, right? So I get this feeling something's looking at me. And I look up and I see this horned creature, and it's huge. I didn't get to see any facial features or anything like that because it was dark, but I saw the shadow of it. And I remember the feeling. I was petrified. I was like, oh, I remember this was evil. This was like, holy shit, this is a demon. And people might think I'm crazy. I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I don't give a shit. I know what I saw. And I threw my blanket over my head because I was like, this is not here. I tried to tell myself it wasn't here. It's not here. It's not here. And I remove the blanket and I look and it's still fucking there. And then it seemed like an eternity. I just looked at it and it was looking at me in my window. And all of a sudden it just went away. It was the craziest shit ever, man. I don't know if you've had any supernatural events happen to you, but after I think a child's innocence is stolen, either God gave me a gift to see evil or it was just a freak occurrence. But the thousands of screams and agony, like I was in hell, and that demon figure in my window, that shit, man, I'll never forget it. I don't know if anything's like that ever happened to you or not, but
No.
I'll be thankful, I guess, because I never seen that again since. Thank God. But it was scary. It was really scary after the bed incident with his father, because again, that was his groomer. That was the porn we didn't tell that he put a porn on. Nobody told. Then his son was, used as the grooming tool, and then eventually Dad did in the bed. And then I remember when it stopped when I fought back for. My mom dropped me off there to his house. He was 2 doors down, neighbor 2 doors down, and I don't know where she was going or not, but I remember she walked me to the front porch and walked me upstairs, and he said, I'll put Nintendo on for her. And he was sitting in the corner of the room, and there was a maybe a TV about yay big, and Nintendo was just out. They just got Nintendo, like Super Mario Brothers. And I remember him letting me play, but I saw him in the reflection of the television and those glasses that he had on. And he goes, we need to wash your face. Come here. And he put a washcloth over my face in the bathroom and walked me to his bedroom. He blindfolded me. And then he put me on the edge of his bed. My legs were dangling off the side, and I was wearing pink corduroy pants. And he went to unzip them, and I knew what time it was. And I started kicking and screaming, and I was crying, and I just fought, and he stopped. And I think that's when he knew, because after that, all hell broke loose. Like, he attacked my mom with a hammer and all kinds of shit. It was all kinds of crazy shit. But still to this day, I can't stand the smell of that aftershave lotion called Brute. It's in that green, dark hunter green bottle. I can't, ugh. It sends me into a tailspin every time I smell it. I can smell it in a whole crowded ass mall. And I have. It's freaked me out. So that's what happened to me. But and there was many times in between where his son would fondle me in the back of the blazer of his. Oh, I hate these people, man. I really do. Here's your dad. They got him up. We're gonna watch Jeff's hair poof again real quick because it's fun.
All right. Keep watching. I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go for it.
Him back from California.
Jody's father, Gary, had shot Jeff Doucet from point-blank range and was immediately taken into custody.
Nice shot.
Doucet, who was 25, died from a single bullet wound to the head.
Did you ask Gary why?
Watch
I
this.
didn't have to. That was probably when I said to him, the least you could have done was let me drive you.
You hear that? Did you hear that? June Plauché. The least you could have done was let me drive you. Why would Gary do that? I knew why. That right there is till the wheels fall off, that's called ride or die. She wanted in on that. Me and Jody spoke about this in great length before we came on here. And I asked him about this. And I'll ask him again when he comes back from the bathroom. I said, your mom said something that was just amazing. She asked why why couldn't she go along for the ride? And he goes, that's exactly what she meant. So this has been pretty rough. Not really as far as drumming up what happened to me. And I'm not trying to compare stories with Jody because what he went through was horrific. And you can't really look at somebody's story and go, well, mine's worse than yours. It's all bad. And these types of people, the only cure for them to stop doing what they're doing is what happened to Jeff. That's the only way. And until I think we get strong, more stringent laws on the books where a capital punishment will happen to you if you touch a kid like this, if you do this to a child, that is going to be the ramifications that you pay. Until that happens, what's the incentive for them to stop? The incentive is you're going to sit in prison for 25 to 30 years and get 3 hots in a cot on the taxpayer's dime. You're going to get free health care. You can go see the dentist. Your family can come visit you. Yeah, you're in prison, but so what? You're alive. I think it's incentivizing them to keep going. And what's really crazy is a lot of the times they're let out. And depending on what state you're in, like California, Gavin Newsom released 7,000 of these people out onto the streets. Some of them had only started doing their sentence only a month in. A month into their sentence, they were released onto the streets. You tell me why. What was the cause to let those type of people out of prison? Now, I understand the SOs, the sex offenders that have whipped their dicks out and pissed on the side of a building, and now they're a sex offender for the rest of their life. Or the 18-year-old who's with a girl, and they've been dating since he was 16 and she was 14. He ages out. He becomes 18. Mom and dad don't like him, so they press statutory rape charges on the kid. And now he's a sex offender. He didn't rape nobody. That shit was consensual. I ain't talking about those instances. I'm talking about if you do what Jeff Doucet did to Jody, and if you do what Anthony Battaglia did to me, you should meet your demise. I don't see what the whole thing with the Democrats are, why they're so obsessed with this and grooming kids and exposing kids to this type of thing. I don't get it because it messes kids up. All right, Jody's just joining us back. And so, Jody, I just played the clip of your mother where she had where she said, why didn't you let me come along for the ride? And so I'm going to play that clip, and me and you talked about that before we started this. And so here's where it left off before, when you had to go to the bathroom here. I mean, that's dead hands right there, buddy. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
To the
He
head.
was dead before he hit the ground.
Yes, he was. Good.
Did you ask Gary why?
I didn't have to. That was probably when I said to him, the least you could have done was let me drive you.
Yes.
I was like, oh, why would he do that? And everyone was going, Jody, you got to understand, your dad did this for you. I'm like, he didn't ask my permission. That's not what I wanted. So why would he do it? I still didn't hate Jeff, and I didn't want Jeff dead, by the hands of my father. And that was overwhelming.
Plauché should make his first court appearance tomorrow.
The possible charges, of course, are second-degree murder, manslaughter, and then there's always that other designation, which is justifiable homicide.
Phone calls are pouring in from all over the country, offering both money and moral support.
Plauché's actions stirred powerful emotions in people who could picture themselves in his place.
Gary Plauché pled no contest to manslaughter. For killing Jeffrey Doucet, the judge gave Jody's father a sentence of 7 years, suspended, 5 years probation, and 300 hours of community service.
And what Jody had told me is that his father did every bit of that, and he did all of his community service. He did everything that he was told to do. Your dad was a stand-up man.
Yep. His probation officer said that he was his favorite person that he supervised because my dad wasn't a criminal.
It was your favorite probationee. Your dad was his favorite probationee. Good.
Is that the word, probationee? Yeah.
Yeah, a parolee, probationee. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to see your mom say the least you could have done was ask me to drive you, and then your clip played of, why did you do that? I didn't want him to die. And I get it. I get where you're coming from now that I got to sit and talk with you. It makes sense.
That was my 11-year-old self.
Right. Well, 11, no child wants that person gone. But funny story, it's not very funny, but when I told my mother when I was 8, when my grandma was talking about little baby Lisa, and I said, he did that to me too. My mom said, I'll kill him. I'll kill him. I'll get a shotgun right now and I'll kill him. This was 1985. This was already a year after, 88. I'm sorry, 4 years after what your dad did. And I told my mom, I looked at her, and I'll never forget this, my little 8-year-old self. And I said, do it. Kill him. And I wanted mine dead. I did, because I knew from hearing the horror stories of how many kids there were, and it was just like Jeff. Hundreds. I remember that hearing about there was a case where he went to a college campus and he dressed up like a police officer and he jumped a college student. She was in the bushes. He raped her. It was like crazy. Like, I wanted my perpetrator dead at 8 years old, which is so crazy, because if you look at it, like, you could see how innocent you were as a child. Like, you had a heart of gold. Like, you were raised correctly. Me, I don't know where I went wrong. Maybe it was seeing the demon, maybe feeling like I was in hell. I don't know what it was, but a presence that attached itself to me in that time of my life where I had a bloodlust. I wanted to see him die. Yeah, it was crazy. It's so crazy that I'll never forget this. It'll be fresh it's fresh in our minds, and it will be until the day we die. And being as many kids as you've helped and as many victims as you've helped, I think that is your way of doing good deed for others and being
No,
there.
in 1991, I went on the Geraldo Rivera talk show.
Yes.
And a few days after it aired, I got a call from my Burnett. He was the cop that yelled, "Why, Gary, why?" And he told me, he said, "Look, we're arresting this pastor. It's going to be on the news. This kid saw you on the Geraldo show, and he came forward, and we're arresting this guy." So, you know how people go, like, if I could just share my story and help only one person, I helped two, and I wasn't even trying. I just went to New York City to be in New York City. And that's when I decided, I was like, you know what? I could take something negative and turn it into a positive. And so I will share my story so people can hear it and know that, their life's not destroyed. They can be okay. And, it's a process. You got to get through it, but you can. And that's what I've been trying to say.
I think it's absolutely heroic of you. And I was very bitter for a long time. I really commend you because I wish that I would have I am to where you are today. I'm there. I don't let that define me, and I do want to help others. But it took me a long time to get here because I don't know how he made it flip around on me to where I was ashamed and I felt guilty. And I always in my brain, I'm going, why me? Why me? I'm in my brain, I'm hearing these voices of my own voice. Why me? Why? Why? And for very many years, I mean many, uh, I was just hateful and spiteful and mean, and I was hurt. So I think that term hurt people. I was that. And that lasted until I was about 16 years old. And then I found substances. I didn't have to feel no more. And I took solace in substances. And I dealt with addiction issues from 16 all the way until literally I was 2014, 34, 34 years and 6 months old is when I finally stopped using substances to get, and I'm so there today where I want people to know what you said. You can get through this. It doesn't define who you are. And if our stories can help, I wish I would have told a lot sooner. I do. I wish I would have had the courage to find somebody I trusted, whether it be a teacher or another neighbor that wasn't a rapist. But like I had 2 lesbians that were across the street from me, Eileen and Cher. And since my mom worked all the time, like I was always over there because I felt safe with them. And I wish I would have told them, like, my nose is burned, nose, I'm about to cry. like Eileen was nurturing and feminine, and Cher was more butch lesbian, right? Had a mustache and everything. Worked at SeaWorld. And we used to go over there all the time. And they had a lot of stuffed animals and stuff, and they were just so good to me. And I remember I'd get in trouble, and they would always help me out of trouble. Like when I poured gasoline on newspaper to start a bonfire in the sand pit that used to be our pool. Tornado took our pool. I thought I would start a bonfire. I was like 7. And some of the ash from the newspaper landed on the inside of my leg and burnt me up real bad. And they put like a maxi pad on and cleaned it all up for me and stuff. It ended up turning almost gangrenous. And I had to go to the burn unit and stuff like that, but they took good care of me. I just wish I would have told somebody that I trusted, because that way I would have been able to perhaps sit through that interview stronger than I was. But when they're treating you again like a criminal, it's very difficult. I think a lot of police work has come a long way since then too. It's not like it was back then, but yeah. It's good to talk to you about all of this, because I mean, regardless of how hurtful it is and how traumatic it was, it is so relieving and it's so healing to be able to speak and get it off your chest, and hopefully somebody sees it and gains the courage to say something, right? Like Geraldo.
That's exactly why I speak out.
Yeah, I wish we can find that clip. I looked high and low for it, and even you said it's not even on the internet anywhere, which really sucks, because you could see him get hit by a damn chair, and you could see Roy Skaggs and all of them when they had the KKK on there and stuff. Like, you could see all that, but which sucks, because like, or Roy Innes, I'm sorry, Roy Innes, you know, I wish your story was on there, because that is so important. Yeah, do I like to see fist fights and all this, that? Yeah, sure. But I wish I could find your clip. I'm going to scour it and see if I can get archives and stuff, and maybe we can like do this again or something and go over it. But so your dad, this was the, I think we have a couple of minutes, and then this is the last time your dad was on recorded. He had passed away October 20th of 2014. Am I correct?
Yes. And this was about a year earlier. This segment aired in September of 2013. So it was about a year before he died.
Yeah. We're gonna finish it out, and is your dad, is he entombed in those really fancy cemeteries, or was he cremated?
He was cremated.
Okay. Do you have him, like his ashes? I have my stepdad's ashes and stuff.
They're around. Yeah, we've put them around. He's memorialized.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got my dad upstairs in the cabinet. He's with the dogs, My stepdad, when he came, I was 8 years old when he came into my life, and that was the only dad that I had, and he was with me for 30 years. Great, great dad, man. He never left. Yeah, that's another day, another story for another day, but let's finish this one out.
He spent no time in prison.
They were not going to convict Gary of shooting the guy.
I'm going to back it up a little bit, you guys.
300 hours of community service. He spent no time in prison.
They were not going to convict Gary of shooting the guy who molested his son. That wasn't going to happen. Not in Baton Rouge.
That's
How do you
right.
explain the sentence?
How do I
Gary
explain
received?
the sentence? He had an angel sitting on his shoulder. There was so much support. Of course, you had your people who, it's not right, it's not right to kill, it's not right to kill. Come talk to me for a minute. Come sit here with me and I'll give you details. Then tell me how you feel about it. And I'm going to show you pictures of my 10-year-old baby. And you tell me what you would have done if somebody would have done this to your baby.
There it is.
Gary Plauché, now 67 years old, still lives in Baton Rouge. In 2011, he suffered a severe stroke that has made walking and talking a challenge. But his memory remains clear.
Do you regret killing Jeff Doucet?
No.
No. Would you do it again?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Some people call him the hero. I don't know about that, but most parents understood the situation. They would have been them. Thank you, and make a statement, and they can dig him up and shoot him again.
That was
For those
awesome.
who don't know, my name is Jody Plauche.
Now 41, Jody Plauché shares his story in hope that he will prevent abuse and encourage victims to come forward.
When I was younger, for those who don't know, I was a victim of sexual abuse as a child by my karate instructor. I could take something that was really bad and turn it into something positive and let people know that this doesn't have to destroy your life.
A life that for Jody included becoming a two-time all-district quarterback in high school, a bachelor's degree from LSU, and a governor's award in 2004 for survivor activism.
You're welcome. I'm happy. I'm not scarred for life. I'm not ruined. I'm not damaged goods. You don't have to like strange around me because you find out what happened. I am who I am.
That was awesome. I my goodness, man, unpack that.
I will say this. That is the only time I took a sunset walk on the levee was for the ESPN filming. Like, I don't do that.
I didn't think that. I think, yeah, I enjoy long walks on the levee. It broke not too long after that. My goodness. Yeah, it was, you know, your father was asked if you could kill Jeff Doucet again, would you? And he says, oh, yeah.
I hear hell yeah. I hear hell yeah. But that's me.
You know what? I did too. But the
Tom
reporter said,
Bernard goes, oh yeah. But no, he said hell yeah.
I thought so too, but I didn't want to be wrong. Here, let's play it again.
Yeah, play it again.
I thought so too. He said, hell yeah. See? All right. See what they did. The reporter was probably like, oh, we can't say hell.
Clean it up.
We're going to play it again.
But his memory remains clear.
Do you regret killing Jeff Doucet?
No.
No. Would you do it again?
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yes.
He
Yeah.
said, hell yeah.
He said hell yeah.
And then the reporter, oh, yes, no, hell yeah. And then your uncle.
Come here, buddy.
And then your uncle goes, he said if he had the chance, he'd dig him up and he'd shoot him again. Yes.
No, I will say it. All right, so my dad did say that, but he said it jokingly. He was like, yeah, if I could dig him up and shoot him again. So he said that as a joke, not like as a
Who
serious
cares if
statement.
it's a joke? I don't care if that's a joke or not. I would say the same damn thing. Yeah. And if I could, I'd dig him up and shoot him again. That's awesome. That just means that's a good dad. That
People,
loves his
people say, you should go to Jeff's grave and pee on it. I'm like, no, he'd like that.
Right. And I love the fact that you have such a good sense of humor. Like, I have seen some podcasts with you that I was just like, this dude is fucking awesome. Like, you have the best sense of humor. Like, you were joking about like the soap and stuff, like the soft soap. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like,
I wasn't joking. I was telling the truth.
I know you were. I know you weren't joking about that at all, but like how, like, you have a way of turning things from a negative to a positive. And you're a good spirited person. You're good people, Jody.
As I'm looking at my rescue kittens, yeah, well, one's a cat, one's 9 years old. She's looking at me mad because she don't like the other kitten that's in here. But yeah, no, I try to be, and I think my dad would be proud of the person I am.
And isn't that all we strive for? Like, for my grandma, that's what, like, I know, and my stepfather, I know they know they're proud of me today. I know it. And it's all we can strive to do is be a better human being than we were yesterday. We don't have to be perfect because nobody is. But damn it, there's nothing wrong with looking at yourself and saying, how could I be a little bit better than I was yesterday or today even? How can I be better tomorrow than I was today? And I, I'm I'm so grateful that we crossed paths, and I would love to come down to Louisiana, and I really would love to meet you in person. And just you
Well, I'm going to be in Ohio in April.
That's
It's
right.
um,
Yes. Yes, you will
just
be.
it's shit. What's the name of the town? It's south of Toledo.
Oh,
It's
got me.
western. It's about an hour and a half drive from Detroit, so it's Archbald. It's at a community college. So I don't know if you know.
Bowling Green? No, you're not going to Archibald?
It's Northeast Ohio Community College or something like that. It's in Archbald, but yeah, I'm going to be up there in April.
Let me see. Northeast Community College. Oh, Ohio. Duh. I put Ohio. You'd have to give me the give when you find all that out, give it to me.
Google SART Sort Conference, Ohio.
Okay, SORT conference. Conference, Ohio. And I'm gonna get that audiobook too, because I do have Why Gary Why. It's available on Amazon and on Jody's website as well. Where is this at? Conference
And
details.
the Audible's good.
The Audible book is good. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna get the Audible because, like, I have you on my Kindle, and I started reading the book before I when I'm all like tucked in at night, and I just want to and I just I slept so good the night well, I've read it over several days, and it's not very long or anything like that, but very well written, and it just put my mind at ease, and I got really good sleep the nights that
The book about child rape, kidnapping, and murder just gave you peace of mind. That's
well,
awesome.
not the child rape
No,
and not the kidnapping,
I'm just
but
saying.
the end, like, of Chef's kiss. Abso-freaking-lutely. Yeah. Yeah, that definitely made my day. No, it's just how well written it is and how like like you didn't skip like a beat as far as making it immersive, making it like you were there. You know what I mean? It doesn't making sense. Probably not. I'd never make sense. You'll have to send me where when you're gonna go because I am having a problem finding all that. So when you're here, you have my number, so I'm sure we'll connect. I'll make the drive. I'm like an hour and a half from Toledo. Did you know that Toledo, Ohio, third in the nation for human trafficking?
All right, real quick, just so you know, my phone is going dead.
Okay.
So,
Well, go ahead and go, and you have my phone number, and maybe we can do this again.
oh no, absolutely. Let's do it again.
Awesome, Jody. Thank you for giving me your time. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
You too. All right, you guys. See, I told you. You could just talk to him. And the next thing you know, hours are going by. So I promise you guys the clip. He has seen it. We got to kick off of YouTube. We'll continue this on X and on Rumble. And I'm going to end YouTube now, you guys. So make sure, again, you're following me here on X and Rumble as well. I'm sorry we didn't get to a lot of your chat. I wanted Jody's story to get out, and I wanted him to give you his perspective and clarify a lot of myths that were, and just a lot of, shall we even say it, misinformation that was out there. You know, I wanted you to hear it from the horse's mouth himself. And I think he nailed it. What a great time that was. I mean, was the content deep? Yeah, real deep. But it was necessary. It was real necessary. Because again, the first thing I said to Jody when I talked to him on the phone was, dude, I wish your dad was my dad. I wish all of us had a dad like Gary Plauché. And I don't want it to take away from what happened with Jody. I don't want that to overshadow him being a survivor. Because what he went through for a whole year is nothing short of nightmare fuel. And unfortunately, it's not like a nightmare where you could just wake up from it and it's over. It's a repetitive nightmare. It's like a reoccurring nightmare. That's the same old every time. So I didn't want to take that away from him and invalidate him in any way, because I know what I went through and it was horrific. And that is why maybe people will get a sense of why I am as ferocious about protecting children these days. Maybe they'll get a sense as to why that is. Because one of the things that groomers use is pornography. That's how they test a boundary. You heard how Jeff Doucet had tested the boundary. He put his hand on Jody's leg. Like Jody would do the steering of his car and he would do the stick shift, and then he put his hand in his lap and took it away. Was that a mistake? And then he did it again. They push the boundaries to see what they can get away with. And when you're not that kid who tells your parents everything, they strike. And this is why it is so important for you as a parent to talk to your children from a very young age in a manner where they will comprehend it to what maturity level that they are at the time. Like my son just will be turning 7. here on, let's see, where are we at? We are the 23rd. 3 more days. He'll be 7. So what I had said to my child was, I was in the doctor's office with him actually, and he was getting a physical done. And he had to be naked. Okay. And you could do this if your child is 3, 4 years old. First of all, don't give the kids to just anybody. Don't just let some fucking creeper that lives a couple doors down who's 45 years old babysit, or a 17-year-old kid, 16, 17-year-old boy babysit your 5-year-old daughter. And women can be predators too. So same thing. But I looked at my son and I says, you see now, honey, the doctor has to look at you. And the doctor, when mommy's in the room, is allowed to look at you there. Now, he's going to have to touch you, but it's okay. He's just checking on your growth. Mommy's in the room. It's okay. Or you're giving your child a bath, and mine's 7. He cleans himself now, so he knows now. But at 3, mommy washes you, or grandma gives you a bath, or auntie gives you a bath. I always let myself, my sister, or my mother give my son a bath. Nobody else. And so now that he's 7, he knows nobody needs to touch him there. Like, nobody needs to wash you. You're more than able to wash yourself. So it's not like you can have one little talk with your child. It has to be at certain stages of their life. But the most important thing as a parent is to look at your child and say, you could tell me anything. If anybody hurts you, I need to know. And it's okay. I will protect you. And again, don't just leave your kid with any stranger, or leave your kid with somebody that gives them spidey senses tingling. No. You don't just trust your children with anybody. And I never understood that for the life of me. I didn't. Like, how the fuck did my mom trust this fucking guy, this 45-year-old, 47, however old he was? How would you trust him with your 5-year-old daughter? Like, what the fuck was so important that you had to walk me onto his doorstep? That I never understood that. Never. And I'd be damned if I ever let that shit happen to my kids. You got life fucked up. Because you know why Mr. Plauché said, if I had the opportunity, I would do it. Hell yeah, I'd do it again. Because he actually did what he had to do. Because this man was able to gain his trust in order to let his son be around this man. So the guilt that Jody's parents felt, just like the cure for people like Jeffrey, that had to happen for more than one person. Future victims, it had that the guilt was eating him up, eating up Gary Plauché and June. It had to happen. And I know that, Jody said that he was not happy because he wanted to be able to face his accuser. Or I'm sorry, he wanted to face the man that did what he did, not his accuser. I'm sorry, came out wrong. He wanted the chance, and he felt like that was stolen from him. But as a parent, that has to be hard. Like, if that happens to your kid, that I am fortunate that I was that type of mother. that I knew when I went to prison. Matthew was at my ex-in-law's house, and they were they are good people. And when I was gone for that 2.5 years, I knew he was safe. And when my youngest was born, he wasn't born until after I got out of prison. And let me tell you something. I was like a prisoner in my own home because I didn't trust anybody to watch him. So I sacrificed a lot. And you know what? I'm mad about it. At least I will always put my head down at night knowing that I didn't say, well, I feel like going out tonight. Here, anybody, just watch him. Like hell was I going to let that repeat? History was not repeating itself. I think that's why I was so close with my grandmother, you guys, because my mom went out every weekend, everyone, and she just dumped me off with my grandma. After that shit happened, it's like, yeah, I get it. He was 2 doors down, but my grandma was 15, 20 minutes away, maybe. You couldn't just take me to my grandma's house. And my grandma, I miss her every day. And I think she took it harder than my own mother when the news broke of what happened to me when I was 8 years old. I remember my grandmother falling to her knees and sobbing uncontrollably. Yeah, she took it hard. And then I remember her yelling at my mother, like, where the fuck were you? It was pretty bad. Like, this shit tears up families, you know? So I'm grateful that I had my grandmother, you know. What the hell happened? This thing froze again. All right, you guys, I'm going to switch off of YouTube here. Thank you guys for joining. All 2,000 of you. Thank you guys. I'm going to switch off here so we can watch the unedited version on X and Rumble. And if you would like to see Jody come on again, let me know. Or if you have any other guest ideas. I wish I can get Trump, but it's probably never going to happen. So somebody that's attainable, then yeah, maybe we can make it happen. But I want to say thank you guys so much. Yeah, let's talk about this real quick. A female teacher groomed a female student, run off to Oregon when the student turned. Yeah, the teaching. Yeah. There was a teacher, which this is an epidemic right now. This is why it's so important that we have federal laws change to make this a capital offense. We have to stop incentivizing them to keep doing it. Yeah, there was a teacher that had groomed this female student. It was a female teacher, groomed a female student, and put in the paperwork to say the student was homeless so that she can live with the teacher. And the teacher was sexually abusing the kid. I swear it's every single day that we see this on the news. And thank God we have X, because had we not had X, we wouldn't know shit. Because the media is like, what they don't know won't hurt them. Or what they do is they spin the narrative to whatever, agenda they have. Not fair. All right, YouTube. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to Rumble officially and X. And I want to say thank you to Jody Plauche. You're a rock star, my friend. And he is one hell of a cook. I am going to definitely get some seafood boil. Definitely. Got to have that Cajun food. Yum, yums. All right, guys. YouTube, thank you guys. Make sure you hit the like button. Oh, so important. Make sure you guys hit the like button on your way out. Send this shit into the atmosphere of the algorithms. Do it. And it'll tell YouTube that we like the truth. We don't like censorship. We like real. We don't like to be lied to. There's no need for that. All right, guys. Thank you for the warm welcome back. I'm going exclusively to X and Rumble. You can follow me down below. Bye.